ready.
I'm ready.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Down to Watch. I am Camila,
I am Dan.
and we are here to talk about movies and stuff. We took a little break, and it's a couple days after Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys are all full of leftovers and love. We are.
I am.
And so, yeah, we're going to get into this movie very shortly. So, Dan, how are you today?
Fat, dumb, and happy.
All right. That's how we like it. We are going to get into Cabin in the Woods today. This is episode 27 of Down to Watch. And, yeah. So what brought this on, Cabin in the Woods? I know that everybody's probably thinking, it's Thanksgiving, holiday-esque, and, Halloween's over. Maybe we should have done this last month. But this weekend, there's like a free preview of Stars on Comcast if you have Comcast, and we got to watch Ash versus Evil Dead, the first 4 episodes of it. And that prompted us to go back and watch Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3, which is actually
Fell asleep.
I fell asleep on the third one.
Yeah, we need to rewatch 3.
Yeah, we do. But we absolutely were awake for the first one.
Sorry, Army of Darkness.
Yes, thank you. That's what it was. That's what it was. The third one's Army of Darkness.
It's time travel, which is one of your Achilles' heels when it comes to film.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But yeah, so and watching those things, it also got us to be like, oh wow, yeah, this is where this is Cabin in the Woods. Did like a straight up shout out to this movie.
Yeah.
And Dan had never seen it before, but I had maybe seen it years upon years ago one time at a party.
Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either the first one or the second one. It definitely
I've seen
wasn't
posters.
the third one.
Hella posters.
But so we finally got that off of our list, so now we're up to date with everybody else our age.
I want to go back and watch the third one.
Yeah.
Steve Campbell, you rock.
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, that guy. Exactly. Him.
Which, by the way, if you guys get a chance to watch Ash versus the Evil Dead, I highly suggest it.
It was great.
It's such a good show, and Bruce Campbell always top notch.
Bruce. Campbell.
And like I said, I knew that he was in the Evil Dead movies, but I really didn't have a sense of his. But my first sense of his comedic value was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, where they started to do these Old Spice commercials, and he was He was the star of them, and he was a lounge singer singing "Hungry Like the Wolf."
How'd that go?
I don't remember.
Yes, you do.
He's sitting at a white piano, and he's just playing "Hungry."
Hungry like the wolf.
Oh, I'll have to try to find it on YouTube and show you, because I won't do it justice.
Right.
I'm sure.
Just splice that in.
So, if there's anything that you guys,
Well, hold on. Let me ask you a question before we move on to Cabin in the Woods,
Okay.
which is why we were podcasting. If you were to recommend to somebody to start up on the Evil Dead franchise, would you recommend the first one, or would you tell them just to start with number 2?
That's a good question.
It seems like the TV show just picks up with number 2.
I guess it kind of depends on who that person is. If they like real campy, gore, and really bad, practical special effects and stuff.
And claymation.
Yes.
The hallmark of the franchise.
Then I would say absolutely go on for the first one. But I kind of feel after watching the second one too, I feel like I didn't have to watch the first one.
Right.
Because they don't really pick up where they kind of change the history a little bit.
Yeah, right. From the makers of Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, we bring you Evil Dead 2.
Sam Raimi at his finest. Yeah, so, I don't know. I guess it just depends on what your taste is. If you're just trying to, get a backstory on Ash versus the Evil Dead before you start watching that, just watch 2.
Yeah.
I think that'll suffice.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I didn't see 3 clearly.
I know.
But, he cuts back somehow.
Yeah,
El
somehow.
Jefe,
Yes.
the prophecy. It's
And
awesome how it all ties together. Like, it is ridiculous how just beautifully these parts work together.
no, it's pretty great. And I mean, and even if you don't feel like going back and watching all three, like we thoroughly enjoyed Ash versus the Evil Dead without having seen
Yeah, true.
I mean, you know the backstory.
If you've seen the poster, that's all you need.
Yeah, I think most of us at this point, if you've seen it or not, you know the backstory. Like you know what the thing is. But
Bunch of college kids go to a cabin in the woods. That is the plot of Evil Dead. Which brings us to our movie, Cabin in the Woods.
exactly. So, but just a reminder, guys, please take some time out to rate and review us on iTunes. And you can post stuff and give us shout outs and say hey on our Facebook page, Down to Watch. And you can also tweet us at DTW Podcast if you have a suggestion of film, TV show, or an album that you might want us to talk about. Then let us know. You can also send email to downtowatchpodcast@gmail.com. Now, let's talk about Cabin in the Woods.
Let's do it.
Here's a quick summary. 5 friends go for a break at a remote cabin in the woods where they get more than they bargained for. Together, they must discover the truth behind the cabin in the woods. This movie was directed by Drew Goddard and written by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard. And I forgot to check on the year that this was released.
2011.
Thank you, sir. And our personal history with this movie. I remember hearing about it when it was released, and I thought that I was confusing it with something else. And I thought it was just going to be a stupid, like, craptastic movie, so I didn't even pay any mind to it. And then people just I started hearing all these random people raving about it in the theaters and everything. It's like, oh my God, Cabin in the Woods is like the best horror film ever, blah, blah, blah. It's so good, yada, yada, yada. I still didn't see it until it came on demand, I think is when we watched it together for the first time, and we were both like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while. It was a while ago. But it's definitely worked its way up there into one of my, I'll never get bored of watching this movie. Like Fifth Element, Blues Brothers, Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
I'll always be able to watch this.
I think it has eked its way up to at least my top 10 favorite movies.
It's a solid movie because it's like 2.5 movies in one.
Yes.
Arguably 3.
And plus, Joss Whedon had a hand in it, which we're very,
yeah,
very pro Whedon.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some great dialogue, great comedy. And also, I'm sure I'm not the only one that thought this because when I Googled it, Cabin in the Woods Scooby Doo Gang came up on its own. I'm like,
really?
Oh, okay, so other people thought this too. You got Fred, Velma, Shaggy, Daphne. Now, Daphne carries a lot of weight, but nonetheless, like the fool, Marty, what was his name? Marty
His
Mikalski
real name?
was the character's name. His actor's name is Fran
Franz.
Kranz.
Fran Kranz.
Fran Kranz, who was also in Dollhouse, another Joss Whedon production, in which he played Topher Brink.
So you want to, since you brought up Fran, you want to go down our character, our actor?
Yeah, he plays
there?
the fool.
Yes, Marty.
The Shaggy, if you will,
right?
of the Scooby-Doo gang.
We've got Kristen Connolly plays Dana.
Yes, who is like the virgin maiden, and I'm going to get back to her and Daphne in a minute after we go through the rest.
Okay. Chris Hemsworth is Kurt.
Yes, yeah, the athlete, Fred.
Okay. Anna Hutchison is Jules. We still haven't placed her yet.
She's the slut, and I'm going to get back to Daphne. Daphne carried a lot of weight for the Scooby-Doo gang. I'm not saying Daphne's a slut. I'm not saying that. I just said
Not
that.
slut-shaming Daphne.
No, I don't believe Daphne was a slut.
Okay.
But I don't believe she was a virgin either.
Well, I mean, Fred and
Perhaps
that
a
ascot.
maiden.
She's a little more virtuous than...
She probably had more hickeys than the show revealed because of all the scarves. Like, why else wear all those scarves?
to match Fred's.
Ascot.
Jesse Williams, who most of you may know from Shondaland on Grey's Anatomy, as well as he's been doing quite a lot of political activism lately. He plays Holden.
Yeah, the scholar.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of political activism?
A lot. He got heavily involved with the Black Lives Matter. Any sort of racist tension that shows up, or anything that's basically racist issues, racism, and he's been doing a lot. Like it was just kind of just started off with him just doing like tweets and stuff like that, and then he started actually like going on like CNN and Fox News and like different platforms and stuff. And he's kind of I take him a little more seriously than I did before. I really didn't know that much about him, but yeah, smart guy. And I also recommend you guys listen to his podcast, his interview with Aisha Tyler on his episode of Girl and Guy.
Yeah.
We also have Richard Jenkins plays Sitterson.
Gary Sitterson.
Gary Sitterson.
That dude's been in a lot. He's
Yeah.
he's like Bob Newhart's stunt double
He's
or something. Like
if Bob Newhart did stunts.
right, right. So he basically doesn't have a lot of work as a stunt double, but he's been in a lot of things.
He's been in like everything. I think he's probably like, you know, always that either that politician or some sort of like detective or
Somebody's dad.
yeah.
Or a driver's ed teacher.
Yeah, I could see him in all of those roles. I probably have. He's a very funny guy though.
Yeah, the casting in this is great because you have the 5 college students or whatever that go off to the cabin in the woods, and then you have essentially the office, and it starts off with Steve Hadley and Gary Sitterson, the office jocks, if you will. Of
Steve Hadley, played by Bradley Whitford.
Yes, who we know from West Wing. Yeah. Those 2 guys were great. There's how's the wife? Oh, great. How the kids? Great. You know, I can't remember which anniversary is the crystal one, but blah blah blah. You know, you know, and then they get in their little golf carts and they're tooling about. And it just starts off kind of like an episode of The Office.
Meh.
With these 2 guys and their smack talk or whatever. And it's hilarious because there's 2 universes going on here. There's the college kids who think they're just going to a cabin in the woods, even though Mordecai warns them that they will die certain death if they go into the woods. And then you've got the office guys behind it who are like, okay, let's see how they're going to choose which way they die, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, just hijinks ensue in the office.
Okay, it's just to wrap up the actor list here. We've also have Sigourney Weaver, who plays like
the boss,
yeah,
the director.
She's
who Gary and Steve work for.
Yes, and they don't have I guess kind of major parts, but Brian White, who also from Shondaland.
There are no small parts. He's the new guy.
Exactly.
He's there for the audience to explain why they're betting.
Yeah, absolutely. So and I forget his name, but yeah. So he is I don't know. He's
his
one
character's name was Alex something.
Okay.
The new guy, the new security guard.
So he was on Scandal for a while. He had an arc. He was Olivia's love interest for a hot second. Then he turned out to be an evil B613 agent.
Brian White, do you have an autobiography? I'd like to read it.
Because apparently he has lived a very full life.
I love his the titles. Like if you look him up on IMDb, it's like, hold on, I wrote it down. This is a personal goal now. I want all of this as well. It's like Brian White, producer, dancer, stockbroker, actor.
He was also in, I think, Drumline.
There you go. Yeah, right. No small parts. He's a new guy. He was important.
Right. So yeah, Amy Acker, also a weed knight. We know her as Fred from Angel.
Yeah.
Love. I loved Fred.
She was also in Dollhouse.
Yes, she was. Huh. And Fran was also in Dollhouse.
Yes.
Okay. And last but not least, one Tom Lenk, who was on Buffy and Angel. He was on a couple episodes of Angel. Yes. My heart.
Yeah, he was awesome. And he was awesome in that
his one-man show, Byron Seller.
Yeah, Byron Seller, the Barbra Streisand reimagination biography of the store clerk.
Yes.
That would have worked in her basement.
It's absolutely hilarious. And I don't know if he tours and does this around. I saw when we were in Bloomington that there was a poster for Byron Seller that it was showing there, but I don't know if he was involved. I didn't see his picture or anything like that. But yeah, it is playing in Bloomington, or showing in Bloomington. And also you should check out, I know Tom is doing a lot of stage productions as of late, but mostly if you're lucky enough to be in like the LA area. So if you guys can check one of his live shows, you should do it. And you can also check out his podcast, Strangely Attractive, which is hilarious. So yeah, so as you said before, we start off with a very random scene of what are their names?
Steve and Gary.
Steve and Gary are just shooting the shit as a normal like work day, and the movie's opening was a deliberate attempt by the filmmakers to confuse the audience and make them think that they walked into the wrong movie.
Nice, that would have worked. I tell you, because you're like, what?
Yeah.
It is natural for her to feel protected.
Donnie, you have women's issues.
Please. You of all people.
Oh, come on. It's a jinx. It guarantees that we won't get pregnant. And it takes me about 20 minutes to get a fucking beer.
Guys, Stockholm went south.
Seriously? I thought they were looking good.
We're cracked.
I haven't seen the footage where it's just going around.
Well, that's never been a stable scenario. Everyone knows you can't trust Swedes.
That means there's just Japan. Japan and us.
Well, it's not the first time it's come down to that.
Japan has a perfect record.
We're number 2. We try harder.
But guys, if we fail, then...
Please, we haven't had a glitch since '98.
We know what we're doing, Lynn. Or we have it written down somewhere.
You guys better not be messing around in there.
Ooh, does this mean you're not in the betting pool this year? Big money.
I am just saying it's a key scenario.
No, I hear what you're saying. In '98, it was the chem department's fault, right? Where do you work again? Wait, it's coming back to me now.
It just kind of goes on for about maybe like 3 minutes or so.
And it's like Cabin in the Woods, dog.
I love it. I love that. From that moment, that's when I was like, I'm in. That was the first thing that absolutely drew me into it. Yeah, this movie is. I know you have a lot of notes there, and I don't know how you want to tackle this because there's a lot.
Act 1. So
Okay.
basically, it's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. In my mind, Act 1 is like the classic horror movie. This is where you get the 2.5 movies in one, where it's these 5 kids go into the cabin. They let you know there's people behind with the knobs and tubes or whatever, and then they like unleash their own hell. We'll talk about a couple of nods to Evil Dead. One, the rickety bridge, to the naysayer guy, the Mordecai
Harbinger?
guy,
Harbinger?
Harbinger. And the speakerphone.
I don't remember him in Evil Dead, the Harbinger.
No, maybe not. There's the truck driver. I guess maybe the people waving. Like
Maybe, but it's definitely like no matter what, the Harbinger is definitely a nod to most teen horror slasher films.
The bridge and the door blowing open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
The two nods. In any event, like Act 2 is basically at the end of that classic horror movie of the kids going in the woods, and they all die. Right? It's when they all try to get away. Is when it and then they start celebrating. They're playing.
The office staff.
The office celebrates. That's the end of Act 1.
Reminder, guys, there will be spoilers.
Oh,
I forgot to mention at the top of the show, there will be spoilers.
So I have to give credit to these people. You want to talk about how they were manipulated and everything that led up to the death of the slut. I mean, the whore. I mean, Jules. I mean...
Okay, so how? Okay,
Daphne?
all right. So they're going along, and we're getting like this feel of like a typical horror film, and they all get, and we've got our stereotypes, like we said, and
are they gonna sin or not sin? It starts with a dual mirror.
Right. And there was also I read something that when they were casting the film, that they were specifically looking for actors who could play that character that the way they were supposed to be, plus their stereotype. So it was really difficult in casting for them to find people to do that.
Gotcha.
But I almost kind of didn't see a difference in Dana, because what was she supposed to be doing? Be an extra?
Well, that
virtuous?
was the whole thing. Is like they're like, she's the virgin, right? And she's like,
right.
I'm not a virgin. And they establish that early in the movie. It
right.
starts off with the very creepy scene through the trees into her window and onto her underpants.
Right.
And then like some pictures she drew of her professor. Her friend comes in, Jules, and is like, Dana, you need to get over your affair with your professor. And she's like, I'm over my affair with this professor. She's like, oh, you should totally check out Holden. Holden's a hottie. Holden's coming with Kirk. We're all going to go to the cabin in the woods. And, it just starts off very kind of like, that's what I imagine Sweet Valley High was like.
I'm going to have to let you watch Sweet Valley High sometime. Just at least one episode.
What did I do?
So they start to establish all these characters and what they are, but they're not. It is very clear. They try to make it very clear that they are not their stereotypes, because when we established that
Who taught you about
yes,
these?
we established that Dana is not really a virgin. We established that Jules is not really stupid.
She's not a whore.
She's not a whore. Yeah.
She's
well,
not a
yeah.
whore. She's into her boyfriend.
I guess that's the only way we can establish that.
They blasted her with pheromones.
Yes.
It was not fair. Steve and
yeah.
Gary tilted the game, so to speak, to make them into these stereotypes.
Right. Yeah. And so in Kurt, we see that he's actually like, what is he, a poli-sci major?
He was a pretty bright guy too.
He was like on an academic scholarship. He wasn't like your stupid jock.
Right.
So he was on an academic scholarship. But
Marty the Fool was really a conspiracy theorist who he at least read books with pictures.
Well, he was super high. That's what he wanted to do at that point. But he had like all these really intelligent thoughts about this conspiracy theories. And then we've also got
society,
the scholar who is still like tossing the football around. So he's not just an egghead. So
right. Exactly. He has good hands.
Yeah.
He's a receiver.
So so we've got our trip. We've got our kids, and we're on their trip, and they cross the rickety bridge.
That's a very Joss Whedon stroke, by the way. It's
what?
like, here's all these stereotypes that aren't stereotypes.
Yeah, like people that could easily be placed into a box, but
yeah, that's what makes a Whedon production a Gerard production.
There's so much more depth to them.
Yeah.
Yes, and so they go along and they meet the harbinger. They still go.
Mordecai with his tobacco.
Mordecai, which was great. Like, that was an excellent scene when he calls in the office.
Mordecai, baby, what's happening? How's the weather up top?
The lambs have passed through the gate. They are come to the killing floor.
Well, you're doing a great job out there. By the numbers, man. You got to start it off just right. So we'll talk to you later, okay?
Their blind eyes see nothing of the horrors to come. Their ears are stopped. They are the gods' fools.
Well, that's how it works.
Cleanse them. Cleanse the world of their ignorance and sin. Bathe them in the crimson of... Am I on speakerphone?
No, absolutely not. Speakerphone, no. No, I wouldn't do that.
Yes, I am. I can hear the echo.
Oh, my God. You're right. Hang on 1 second. I'll take you off.
That's rude. I don't know who's in the room.
Fine. There. You're off.
Thank you. Don't take this lightly, boy. It wasn't all by your numbers. The fool nearly derailed the invocation with his insolence. The Ancient Ones see everything, and they will not be... I'm still on speakerphone, aren't I?
Oh, my God, Mordecai! I can't believe it. It did it again.
No, that was a really another great break, and I guess there was supposed to be the tension at that point in time, but it's a nice little comedic break, which I very much appreciate. Another nod to Whedon. I don't know if that was actually just him or if Drew put that in there, but yes, awesome. So this movie can best be described as what I've been seeing around, that it's like a love and a hate letter to the current horror genre, as to where it's like pointing out all these tropes, all the horror movie tropes, and what you can expect to happen and blah blah blah, but yet it's also like, hey, these things happen for a reason. It makes for a good story.
Right.
And what their plan was to give you all of that stuff, that like give you everything at a certain point. For example, in a horror movie, like when the harbinger is telling them everything and he's like breaking down, like giving them like revelations, quotes, and blah blah blah. Like, that's something that you would expect at that point in a horror movie, but then they give you a twist by breaking it with that my own speakerphone business. Right. So that's kind of
that's also very Joss Whedon.
Yeah, that's kind of something that was their plan to do that around. Like, give you something that you would expect at each point in a horror movie, but twist it.
Yeah.
So
and I'll give him props because, okay, let's talk about a couple Evil Dead nods.
Okay.
The bridge. In Evil Dead, they didn't have a harbinger. The bridge was
the
the harbinger because it was falling apart. Like they
Right.
said, there's a lot of scenes spent on watching wood fall off the bridge and into the river, and they couldn't cross the bridge at night either because it was so rickety and all that other fun stuff. And in this one, there was also a bridge,
Right.
and the bridge plays in a big scene. You know, where this veers off of complete copyright infringement of Cabin Evil Dead, because the door pops up and they go in there and they read some script.
Right.
You know, it was exactly like Evil Dead. There was other things in the room,
Right.
but the writers of Cabin in the Woods decided to go with the exact same thing they did in Evil
Yes.
Dead, which is read some satanic diary out loud and raise the dead. It was
Basically.
exactly the same mechanism used,
Right.
you know, so again, nods to Evil Dead all over the place.
Yeah.
Where it was different was that after the first one died, they all got in the car and they drove away together. They're like, oh, Jules and Marty are dead. Let's get the hell out of here. Like some smart motherfucking people.
Yeah.
And like every other horror movie.
Right. No, and they were just thwarted
Right.
by
Even in
the.
strangers, like, let's just stay put then.
Yeah, this makes
Be
perfect
freaked
sense.
out. Right. No, you get in the car, you drive someplace where there's a lot of lights,
A
a
lot of
couple of
people.
24-hour stores, restaurants, diners, police stations. Anyway, they all try to get away, and this is where they're wrapping up Act 1. And they get in the trailer thingy, and they, you know, Jules is dead. Marty's apparently dead. Points to all of them for getting in the car and getting away. Then there's this whole, like, horrible, like, let's just pull some lines out of a Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s where Kurt decides he's going to jump the canyon. Like, this is the Fonzie, jump the sharks.
Yes.
He's going to jump the canyon for Jules. Insert worst dialogue hype ever. Holden says, you know, and I'm looking at, like, I'm imagining the script. It's like, Holden, ... Don't hold back, Kurt. Never do. And then, like a moth to a zapper, Kurt falls into the canyon with no bottom, right?
As he runs into the invisible field
Right.
that is
With the
set up
game makers.
around.
Yes,
the game makers. This is also kind of Hunger Games-ish.
Yeah, right? So at this point, the slut, the fool, and the athlete are dead as far as the guys back at the office are concerned.
Right.
The scholar is like, I just need you to be calm to the maiden, you know, Dana.
When she's
Did you
starting to put it
come?
all together, because Marty
Right.
had started to put all this together a while ago,
Right,
and they're just like, you're high,
right,
and now she's starting to believe it.
right. And he's like, he's telling her to stay calm. You know, he takes it in the throat from behind while driving after figuring it all out with a plan. He's telling her his last words were calm down. Just like Kurt's last words were never do. This is where we come into like the world of pay attention to the worst last words, or at least interesting last words. Never do. Calm down. And then this is before they even get back, you know, she gets back to the cabin. They never get back to the cabin because they fall off the cliff into the water. Then there's Journey playing, Air Supply, or whatever is playing, and the office is celebrating in the background. You know, the intern,
Right.
played by our boy,
Tom Lenk.
he wins with maintenance
Yes.
on the racist. Hold on, I have to explain this to somebody later. The racist redneck cannibal zombie family is not the same as zombies. I
It's
want
the
you to
difference
find that
between-
dialogue and plug it in.
Okay.
Like, it's not the same. In any event, this begins essentially like when Steve Hadley sings, he's like talking about, I was really rooting for her for a second, you know? These kids give their lives to their tequila is my lady.
It's beautiful.
Tequila is my lady.
That's beautiful. Hadley starts to get real sympathetic for Dana, and he starts talking about how he was so rooting for her, and then he just gets distracted by because someone came in with tequila, and he's done. Because that's when
Tequila is my lady. Tequila is my lady.
So there. I mean, while the kids are all in the cabin, when the door pops open, the cellar door pops open, they go down. That's a really great scene where they're looking at, there's like all this crap down there, and they're just handling it and looking at it all, and outside of the fact, before like upon first viewing of this film, you don't really get like the gravitas of what's happening of what they're doing, because like Kurt's handling like this seashell, and and Jules is
Merman.
tinkering
Would
with
have been cooler with the merman.
Jules is tinkering with like there's like an old wedding gown on a dummy with like a necklace, a pendant, and the one guy's playing with like a little ball puzzle thing that looks like something from Hellraiser,
Right.
and there's like just shit upon shit, and then finally Dana decides to she finds a journal and she decides to read from it, and I love the fact that Marty's like, there's Latin in the journal, and she starts to read it, and Marty's like, I am drawing the fucking line in the sand, do not read the Latin.
Right.
And she does it anyway, and thus raises the, what is it, like I forget what it's like, an actual family.
Andersons or whatever.
Yeah,
their
like
name was.
it's like whatever, but they called them. That's what they're the different zombies. They're they're like the whatever family.
Racist
I forget.
cannibals. So what she reads from the diary is, on this day, we ate my arm.
Something like that,
As
and
a
something, and then there was
family.
a reference to a husband's
Husband
bulge, and Marty's like, "Can we not? Like, this is just."
His husband bulge is showing.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, that scene was like a thing of beauty, of just the fact of just like all that crap in there, and then how they managed to, and how and the script ends up connecting them all, and they make a monster for everything that's represented down there.
Yeah.
And it for a quick second, as like we were talking about, like the Office has their betting
The
pool.
Office bet on which monster they were going to unleash.
Yes.
And for the record, Steve Hadley bet on Merman.
He wanted
really wanted a merman.
I feel like Steve was probably doing that every year. Like every year he's bet on the merman.
Like fucking Linus and the Great Pumpkin.
Oh. Okay, so let's talk about some of the monsters listed on the whiteboard, because there are some specific shout outs to Evil Dead on that whiteboard as well. For one, the angry molesting tree. That's on the whiteboard.
That's what put the first Evil Dead on the map, and then was like, you know what? Let's redo that.
Let's not do that again.
And not add that. That was horrible. Like, don't watch that and Wizard of Oz too close together. I don't know. I need serious meds.
When I was watching that,
This
I was like, I was nearly asleep when that point came on, and then in Evil Dead, and then I'm like, what is happening right
wake
now?
up. I don't want to witness this alone.
I don't want to be the only one to have seen this. You'll never believe me if I tell you that this happened. I don't understand. It's just like 1981 horror film at its finest. Like that's what they did back then. They tried to find as many ways to get a girl naked in a horror film. So they straight up had the Deadites on the whiteboard, straight from Evil Dead. And so like there's a lot of great monsters on there that I probably wouldn't have bet on the merman or the family that it happened.
Merman, the cleanup on them is a pain.
Yes. So there's like there's other ones that are also shout outs to different horror movies as well. There's like the clowns, that's supposed to be a nod to Pennywise in It.
I was like, is that John Wayne Gacy?
Or maybe. There's also the dolls, who were a nod to the Strangers movie, Strangers, and the kitchen staff bet on them. Just so you, in case you're wondering. A dragon bat nod to Blade 2. I think that was the thing that came into it got them while they were hiding.
Yeah.
Or that came up to them. Kevin. Just Kevin.
We have to talk about Kevin.
Well, I think it was more like Elijah Wood in Sin City.
That's what you think. I think it's...
Or-
we have to talk about Kevin.
Or Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Because when you look on the monitors...
Oh, that's right. I think it was that one.
Yeah.
Kevin
We don't know
Psycho.
we don't know for sure that that's...
Kevin is just apparently a daunting name.
Apparently. So...
I love you, Kevin.
Oh, don't piss him off. The ballerina the ballerina was a shout out to just Guillermo del Toro in general, his crazy creatures.
Right. Yes, the labyrinth, the little tooth ballerina.
Yeah.
The multi-tooth ballerina.
And obviously, like, I don't know their names, but the guys with the the saws in their heads, I'm sure they're supposed
It's
to be
a
like
Hellraiser reference.
Yeah.
Instead of Pinhead, it's Sawhead.
right.
And then there was a 1,000-foot cobra. There's just some classic. There's a chainsaw robot.
Which that's just like the most random.
It's
Like, he's just
right.
crazy.
It's like, and he lasted forever. You like in multiple scenes. You He was so like a happy little chopper. It was.
Like, I almost feel like that would have probably that's like the least
chopping mall reference, perhaps.
Probably, yeah, that makes sense. But I almost feel like he's maybe the least
Chopping
dangerous
mall.
one. But
Can we have a moment of silence for the lost copy of Chopping Mall?
sorry to the White family for.
But we've restored them.
Yes, yes,
Thank
we have. Okay, it's the zombie redneck torture family.
Nah.
That's it. So that's who these people are that got it. So they're the ones that the maintenance and Ronald the intern bet on. And there's supposed to be a shout out to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, of course.
Yes. And we've also got, there's just one more. Oh, Twins, The Shining, which I don't think we ever saw the twins at all, which that's cool. Hell Lord, that's what the guy's called with the saw things.
Gotcha.
So somebody took a lot of time into naming and creating all of these monsters, and I really appreciate that. Like, my favorite scene is when they're all released. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's my absolute favorite scene.
Yes, that's the beginning of Act 3.
Yes. So,
Act
but at
2
this
is
point,
about the glitch where they realize Marty's not dead. Marty and the maiden in the fool's journey to discover the game. They figure out what the game's all about when they're in the monster menagerie.
mm-hmm.
Like we do.
Ooh,
you know,
good word.
Right? Because they start out. They go into the coffin. That's like the beginning of Act 2 is when they go into the coffin. And then there's this whole little nod to Alice in Wonderland. Do you want to go down the hole? Or perhaps Daffy Duck. Elevator go down. Elevator go down. Say it.
Elevator go down.
Elevator go down.
Elevator go down.
Right? And they go into this little glass box. And they see the monster menagerie. And I love the way they each discover the monsters come out of the darkness. And
That is really creepy.
Yeah, it was well done with the glass and the light. It was just very well shot. And then she realizes, the maiden, Dana Polk, realizes they made us choose how we die. And then she just loses it. Then she does her scream that she won the audition with. And then they do this little Men in Black nod. Is it Barry Soderbergh or the guy that does Men in Black?
I'm not sure.
Or Steve, I don't know. So
Steve Soderbergh?
Maybe? Men in Black. Anyway, they pull back and you see all the different monsters.
Oh,
boxes,
yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And then it's like the zombie arm. Which starts off with Act 2, which is like, Marty's like, I had to disembowel that man with the troll. That comes back in the end, because the zombie arm saves him. He's like, good job, zombie arm.
Yes.
From certain death, because at this point we realize that they have to kill Marty, and Dana's death is optional in order to keep the ancient god monsters, the evil god monsters, from rising up and destroying all of humanity.
Right.
The director, and I've seen this a lot like high school, explains it to them over the intercom as they're like wandering the hallways, and like the way that it even looked like a scene out of Breakfast Club.
It's a little more bloody.
The director explains to them over the intercom the ancient history, blah blah
Right.
blah.
You shouldn't be here. This should have gone differently. Ended more quickly. I can only imagine your pain and confusion. But know this. What's happening to you is part of something bigger. Something older than anything known. You've seen horrible things. An army of nightmare creatures. But they are nothing compared to what came before. What lies below. It's our task to placate the Ancient Ones, as it's yours to be offered up to them. Forgive us, and let us get it over with.
And then they finally take cover from human bullets and decide they're going to fight back, and they push the button and they unleash the monster menagerie. And that then begins Act 3.
So here's the thing. The button, the purge button, why was it so accessible?
Why would you even have one?
Why? Yeah. Why? There should have been, I feel like...
Incinerate.
Yeah.
There's a button that makes sense to me.
Yes. I'm trying to think of in what situation would you be like, yes, we need to let them all out at the same time. That's absolutely necessary. And Also, why didn't they have a better protocol for if, in fact, something like that does happen? Like, there should, like, everybody's just losing their
The
shit.
escape pods.
Like, there's no.
Like the bank when you stick the thing and it sucks it up the
Yes.
tube. And you end up at a 7-Eleven somewhere in Wisconsin.
Exactly. They're like, you guys have the technology to create these monsters. How about you have the technology to escape these monsters?
Yeah.
No, but everyone, you just see people losing their shit. There's folks shooting themselves in
Yeah,
the head.
Harry Carey
Just-
blowing themselves American style. Harry Carey has a gun to the head, right? Right, exactly.
So
Everything from robots to mermen, and this is when Steve finally meets a merman. He gets eaten
That's his
by
demise.
a merman and blown out the.
Be careful
wet
what you
hole
wish
up
for.
The top of his head. There's
Careful
blood
what you wish
everywhere and
for.
clean up on it. It's horrible.
So yeah, they're bad for having the purge button and for
Steve
not
Hadley's last
having
words.
a plan.
Oh, come on. Sorry.
I do. So there's also I forget at what point. Maybe it's in Act 1 where not Steve. What's the other one's name?
Gary.
Gary.
Sitterson.
Where Gary's explaining that he says in the end, if they don't transgress, they can't be punished.
Right. Lie.
Yeah. So we still never figured out who's are they not talk are they talking about in life, or are they talking about here in the cabin in the woods? Because old girl's transgression, the maiden's transgression, could have been her affair with her professor.
Yeah, they weren't real good on that. I tried to look for that too, and he said it.
Yeah.
They didn't prove it very well in the movie.
Yeah. It was said almost like a throwaway line, but not really, because it came up a couple times. Okay. And my other question, do you think this is a year-round job? Like, did they tell us how often this happens?
No.
This sacrifice?
No.
So let's just say it's every 5 years that this has to go down. I feel like there's probably a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. So I guess it is kind of it could be a year-long gig. There's a lot to do with that, and like I guess choosing your victims. How do they choose their victims? How long has this been going on?
I don't think he has a cousin. Kurt doesn't have a cousin.
Is it the same cabin every time, or do they have to find new locations? Because that's another couple of years of scouting.
Pepper that air with question marks.
That's another couple of years of scouting and preparation, and so I guess I could see how this could be a full-time, year-round job, and not just, kind of a seasonal gig. And how come there hasn't been news coverage of all the missing teens? Nobody
cares about these kids. These lives don't matter.
These lives don't matter. So yeah, so those are my questions for the director and the rest of the staff. And now what? Like, I want to see the prequel for this movie.
How they ended up making the cabin in the woods.
Yeah, like where did this start? Like,
Right.
it's
probably revealed in the Army of Darkness, the third Evil Dead.
So now we're gonna have to go back and watch that, because that's where
it is.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure this. Okay, maybe not how it starts.
You have to go back and find the light inside you.
Maybe more like how they got so like tech, or like how they got techie. Why? Like how they got this new fangled system. Maybe a couple of
2 words for you.
What?
Reaganomics.
So I'm sure originally maybe the whole plan was you just find these 4 or these 5 stereotypes
down.
and throw them in a volcano or whatever.
Right, trickle down to the evil ancient gods.
And then now in 85, that's when they decide we could streamline this. This could go so much easier if we just
consolidated everything into one warehouse delivery system. Blood straight to the mouths of the gods below.
Which is also a shout out to Blade.
Right.
That delivery system.
Act 3 is about unleashing the beasts, basically. And it ends with the end of humanity. It does.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, right? So, starts, basically, Act 3 gives us the death of Steve and Gary. They both die. The maiden.
Gary, by the hands of the maiden.
Yeah, she kills Gary. It was an accident, but nonetheless. And he's like, And then they all start.
It's still all work, man.
He's like, yeah, just kill Marty. Everything will be okay. I'm dead now, but I need you to just kill your friend. And so there's a little dilemma there where does maiden versus fool, fool versus maiden, maiden and fool versus director. They're like, why are you doing this to us?
Werewolf versus maiden.
Yeah, right. The moral of the story is you're being punished for being young.
That's what she said.
That's an inescapable burden.
That's what the director
Hey,
said.
shit you can do about being young.
Sorry.
And you're being punished.
Yep.
Basically, we needed 5 young people. 1 a whore, an athlete, a scholar, a fool, and a virgin. But we'll work with whatever we can get. Which is basically a nice fuck you to the young girls of 2011.
Yeah,
Joss Whedon
that's exactly what it is. It's
like,
where
we're
are we
over
going
you.
to find college-age virgins?
Yeah.
It's not
it's over.
going to really happen.
Just
Which is also kind
no
of
faith.
another...
No
yeah,
faith.
that's just a fuck you to humanity in general. So why are we trying to
They
save
don't know.
this worthless...
Exactly. So basically, you're going to suffer and die at the hands of whatever you unlock. And the fate of the virgin is left up to, the game. So you can either, Sigourney Weaver says to Marty, Shaggy, you can die with them or you can die for them. Then Marty feeds the director to the bottomless cavern.
Well, he lets the last of the torture
yeah.
family come
The
strolling
one-armed
in.
racist redneck cannibal zombie girl.
You've got it all. You are giving them way too many adjectives. It's just...
This is how I read in the script. Marty feeds the director and the one-armed racist redneck cannibal zombie girl to the bottomless hole of the ancient gods. At which point the maiden realizes Kurt has no cousin.
That's really fucked up because it's like at that point you're like, why did we come down here? Like, how did we get here? Damn it, Kurt's not even here. Like, how did that? Like,
Right.
I want to know the process.
And
of
the not-so-virgin and the fool decide, fuck humanity, let's smoke this joint and let the ancient gods rise.
Yeah. Well, I think at that point, yeah. What would you like?
Not these 2 tricks. Nuh-uh.
You're at that point of this. Like, you've gone through all of that. You found out this. You've seen horrific things. And your option is either you kill yourself or you let those bitches rise. And
Singing, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing.
So what is that?
Be all right.
I don't know what that is. Is that an answer?
It's Marty smoking a joint with his virgin
Just
girlfriend.
letting it go.
Being like, screw it.
Just let it go.
And what did they say? They said it would have been cool.
To see them.
Right. Would have been cool to see the ancient gods.
Okay, so Marty has this extremely crazy bong. We see it early on in the film, and then it ends up kind of saving Dana's life when he uses it. It's a travel coffee mug that reaches out into a bong.
Like a cane, like a walking cane. It's tall.
But check it. So the thermal coffee mug / bong was a fully functional mug and bong as portrayed in the film, and the prototype cost $5,000 to make.
Which they made just for this film.
Yes.
Cabin in the Woods.
Yep.
Money well spent. Every dime of that place.
I hope Fran Kranz has that.
Oh, yeah.
Like sitting on.
I should have let him keep it.
That just makes good sense.
For keeping his shirt on.
Yes, so you say that. So, there's a scene where they're all the kids are at the lake swimming and stuff, and Marty is the only one that's not in a swimsuit. He's still got his like thermal shirt and t-shirt on over there, and the reason for that, kids, is because apparently Fran Kranz, I keep screwing his name up, is like much more cut, or was at the point much more cut than Chris Hemsworth, and they didn't want the fool to show up, the jock, in the film. And
Not all stereotypes, kids. Just some stereotypes.
And I was watching a little bit of the behind the scenes, and there was, they were talking to him shirtless, and yeah, he's, I was like, damn boy. But, so, okay, inspiration for this film, Drew Goddard. Much of Drew Goddard's inspiration for this movie came from his upbringing in Los Alamos, New Mexico, a place filled with scientists and coworkers all going about their business and living seemingly routine and ordinary lives, even though they were building nuclear weapons that could potentially destroy the entire world.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because it's like, I find it interesting in this film that you know, we know what these people are doing, but they're like, you take away all of this, it could be all these conversations and attitudes and dilemmas could all be going
Office
on
pools,
in any
water cooler
it could be going in
gossip.
any office in the world. The same, just like mundane, blah blah blah. The same problems. Oh my God,
The person you can put
chemistry
on
is fucked
speakerphone.
up, and yeah, exactly. Like, it's all the same. Like, I gotta fix I gotta fix this department's problem, and blah blah blah. So yeah, it's I appreciate that in this film. That it's not too much like it's very relatable in that sense. Also a nice little fun fact. Fran Kranz, I've probably said his name 18 different times, received extensive prop and behavior training in order to capture the stoner persona of Marty. He received a 2-hour joint rolling session and a separate bong lighting session from expert consultants. In addition to the famous travel mug bong, a number of more suitable marijuana paraphernalia appeared in the film. These include Marty's stash, his secret stash, a smaller pipe, a tulip joint, and a joint kept in the pocket of his pants. The prop crew even designed the film's own brand of rolling papers called Smiling Buddha's Papers.
How much did that prop cost?
I have no idea. But
don't
it
have
sounds
that
like
one
the prop department spent a lot of time on making sure Marty's stoner character was just
Authentic.
right. Was just right. So, and also, Joss and Drew wrote the script in just 3 days.
Huh, good for them. That's amazing. So I challenge you now,
Oh, damn.
my fair lady,
I totally forgot about this.
to a game of 6 Degrees of James Franco.
Dun,
And
dun,
you can use Fran Kranz. And I'll give you a little cheat sheet there. Or you can use Richard Jenkins, who played Gary Sitterson, because he's been in everything. But Fran Kranz was in Donnie Darko as passenger. He was passenger
Oh.
in Donnie Darko. In Training Day, he got bumped up to driver.
Oh, my God.
He's from Donnie Darko, he was a passenger.
Fran.
In Training Day, he was college driver. In The Village, he was in The Village. Named character Christoph Crane.
Christoph Crane.
Yeah, he's been in TV and film. Joss Whedon did both TV and film, so you can go TV and film if you need to, or any character you want. I just thought I would give you those extra.
Well, thanks, for the jump-off point, because I didn't realize Fran had anything to do with Denzel or
Right.
Ethan Hawke. So that's new. That's interesting. I'm having a difficult time here trying to pull this up.
Michael Pitt was in The Village. Is that correct?
If he was, I don't recall it. I just recall being extremely angry about the 2 hours I wasted in that movie theater for that film.
Well, it might come back to you now. You might pay off with your 6 Degrees.
Because
Well, let's
I
play some music while
absolutely
you do
called
some
it.
study.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a break and come back.
All right. Okay, guys, we're back, and I accepted Dan's challenge to connect Fran Kranz to James Franco, because we haven't played that game in a while. Here we go. Fran Kranz was in The Village with Adrian Brody, who was in King Kong with Jack Black, who was in Anchorman with Seth Rogen, who was in This Is the End with James Franco.
Seth Rogen was an Anchorman?
Yes, he was a cameraman.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Thank you. There could have been an easier way to do that, and if you guys have that easier way to go about it, please let us know. You can send us an email, downtowatchpodcast@gmail.com, or just give us a shout out on Facebook. So I would be very interested to know, because I think I took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps.
Kind of awesome.
It was kind of long.
6.
Yes. So let's get to star rating. 1 to 5. What would you rate this movie?
5.
Me too. And are you down to watch it again?
Yes.
Yes, me too. All the time. All the time. And if you guys are interested in watching it again or for the first time, it is streaming on Amazon. You can rent it for $2.99 right now. It is not streaming on Netflix right now. Or just go buy the movie. Just buy the DVD because it's totally worth it and you will absolutely love it. I promise. Bechdel test.
There are 2 or more named women. The director.
She didn't have a name. She's called the director.
That's her name.
Nope. So there were 2 or more named women, Jules and Dana.
Yeah. They talked about anything other than a man. They talked about math. In the beginning.
Ish. They talked like that conversation was about her professor and how much that boy, Holden.
Yeah.
If you aren't familiar with the Bechdel test is, guys, it has to have the movie has to have at least 2 named women in it. They need to talk to each other about something besides a man. And I don't recall Jules and Dana even being able to share that much screen time.
Nope.
And Amy Acker,
The
I
only
don't
thing she
recall what
said
her
to him
name was.
Like, get with Holden, he's a nice boy.
Yeah. And get over this professor. And I don't recall her saying anything.
It
Was there
it wasn't noticeable.
Yeah.
It wasn't a significant enough event for it to reach a Bechdel test.
Truth. So we're going to put a pause on that one. I don't really think
Albert's
this...
putting his paws all over it.
I don't really, yeah. I can't really call it. I'm going to have to go with no, just to think about it off the top of my head. But yeah.
Feels like a no.
Feels like a strong, solid no. So that wraps up this episode of Down to Watch.
Cabin in the Woods.
Dun dun dun. Do you have anything you'd like to add? Any last minute thoughts about Cabin in the Woods?
Drew Goddard wrote for Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 7, and then went on to write for Angel. And so I was just pointing out the deep history Joss and Drew had.
Much appreciated.
And so why they could crank this out in 3 days, because they've been talking about it for 7 years.
So they both just came to the table with like notes of like post-it notes and like legal pads and written on the back of takeout menus and shit like that.
Right. They had a sleepover. I bet you they were Cheetos.
Flaming hot Cheetos, I'm sure. So if you guys are really hip to like Joss Whedon and you do really like, you know, Buffy and Angel and things of that nature, shameless self-promotion, you should check out Revisiting Sunnydale podcast. It's another podcast that I do. My friend Marcella and I, we are doing a Buffy the Vampire Slayer rewatch. So you can check that out. It's in the same feed as this one in Rugged Angel Productions on iTunes, and you can go to the Facebook page Revisiting Sunnydale. We're also on SoundCloud, as well as us, Down to Watch, SoundCloud. So yes, please subscribe, follow, like, make us happy, say hello, keep listening, because we appreciate you. And I think that's it for now. So until next time,
I'm D.
I am Camila, and we'll talk to you later. This has been